Good morning. It's good to see you right here on Wellness Wednesday. The show is your world. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Really good to see you. I'm sure it feels like a Monday because probably that's because I haven't seen you in a while. Okay, but it's so good to see you today on the show. We apologize for starting a little bit late, but here we are. And we're about to have a very important conversation. Today being the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And we'll be looking at early identification and intervention for children with disabilities. So you want to stick around until the end of the conversation for the first hour. And then on the second hour, we'll be focusing on HIV because December 1st was World AIDS Day. So we need to take stock of where we are at as a country, where we've come from, and some of the trends that we're noticing and what we need to do better, okay? But for this particular hour, like I said, it's International Day of Persons with Disabilities, and early identification and interventions for children living with disabilities is what we'll be focusing on, because the theme for this year, that is 2025, is fostering disability inclusive societies for advancing social progress. And speaking about societies in our communities, we have a simple question for you this morning, okay? And the question goes, what is it that you would do different in your community, okay? What is it that you would do different to improve your community? That is the question that we're asking you this morning. And as per usual, at NTV Kenya is how you can reach us across all board on our digital platforms, or you can give us a call. We're live, or better yet, give us a call, like we said, or use our WhatsApp number 0112-500-400, okay? Remember, today it's all about early identification and intervention for children with disabilities. And like I said, we have the perfect panel to have this conversation this morning, okay? So on my immediate left, we have Dr. Vivian Angweni, who is an assistant professor from Aga Khan University Institute for Human Development. Good to see you this morning. Karibu sana for making the time. We also have Dr. Patricia Kipkemoy, who's a postdoctoral researcher. Why? Aga Khan University Institute for Human Development. Karibuni sana. Hey, nitajuma mdomo, heavy words, but karibuni sana. We have Stephen Degwa, who's a parent to a child with autism. Karibu sana. Stephen, good to have you on the show. And we also have Nancy Ndirambo, who's a principal assistant and physiotherapist from Nairobi County. Karibuni sana. Heavy titles, okay? But it's really good to see all of you. But Dr. Vivian, let me just start with you. Because data from the UN, shows that an estimated 1.3 billion people, that's a lot of people, experience significant disability, and this represents 16% of the world's population. So 1 in 6 of us, there's someone who is experiences a significant disability. So when we look at the children as well, right, and early childhood development, first of all, can we just understand the importance of this day, relate that to early childhood development, and we'll look at why these early years are critical for children with disabilities.
Thank you, Winnie, and it's an honor to be in this show. Why we focus on children with disabilities, why the interest is because we know some of the early years are very important. So when we look at the period from birth to 8 years, that's what we call the early years. So a lot can happen during that period. Okay. So children can develop disabilities because of the birth experience during pregnancy or even during the delivery, and they can have a disability. And there are those that because of delays, either they did not achieve their milestones, say walking at the right time, speaking at the right time. There are significant delays in their developmental milestones. So that is when we start having delays, and some of those significant delays can become a disability.
I see that. And also from a research perspective, just to chime into that.
Yes. So as Dr. Vivian mentioned, early childhood is that period from pregnancy, conception to up to 8 years of age. And for all children, this is a time when there's a lot of gaining of milestones and development. So you imagine when a child is born, they can barely do anything for themselves, but by age 3 they can speak, they can walk. So a lot of things are gained during those first few years. So even in terms of identification, when we identify a condition that early, it means we can intervene early, and the gains from that particular time can be very monumental. So that's why the focus is on early identification during those first 8 years, when so much is happening in terms of brain development. We call that period the critical period because it's a foundation for how a child will grow, and even how they'll develop into adulthood. So that's why there's that focus, for example.
And there's research that has been done, from your end, which we'll talk about in just a second.
Yes.
And get to understand, first of all, the significance of this research, why, and what are the things that you found out, and what is it that probably is in our place, all of us, really, to ensure that we help these children, even as they grow into teenagehood, adulthood, and, as they continue. Yes, and beyond. And speaking of that, Stephen, probably to just speak to you about your child, right?
Yes.
When was that first moment where you got the diagnosis, or before even the diagnosis? Because as a parent, I'm sure there's some things that you see, and you're like, okay, should this be happening? Should they maybe have hit this particular milestone at this particular time? So let's go way back to when you started noticing a few things here and there.
Yeah, sure. My son is 16 now.
Okay.
First of all, let me, of course, say thank you very much for having me.
Most welcome.
As you can see, I'm the only man here. So
yes. I hope you feel surrounded with love.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. But I could do with more masculinity, men talking about the experiences.
Yes.
But having said that, anyway, my son is 16 years, and I won't say that we were late in suspecting what he was going through. But at 2 years, we started noticing that his speech was not yet when we expect the kids of his age to start talking. And then we also saw that he was not giving us eye contact. So by the time he was 3 years, we had already identified that there's a problem. And that's when we started going to different doctors. I had seen before somewhere that autistic kids don't give you eye contact. And I already saw that at 2 years, he was not, you could try to look at him, he's not giving you eye contact. Okay. So that was a red flag, but I won't say we were in denial, but I would just say that we suspected that there's something going on. So we were saying, is it maybe the hearing problem, is it what? So it's a process. But the earlier you know, the better. Because maybe we say some interventions could have started quite early. And especially now that the science of autism is being, there's more research coming in, like what you can do at an earlier stage, even maybe from the womb up to the postnatal years. So, yeah, early diagnosis is important because then you know what you're dealing with at an early age and you start preparing for the future. And also for the child, definitely, because it's all about the child. And you're trying to make sure that he does not get to the point where it's a crisis, because we got into a crisis because now it was, we are moving from doctor to doctor, his troubled mind, he can't sleep, he's hyper, he's what. So if we had known about even diet at those years of 2 years, because we came to learn this subsequently now when we knew this is autistic at 3 years. Oh, wow. And so now that's when we started interventions like diet, which is very crucial for children with autism. Maybe if we had known earlier, we would have tried to mitigate some of the symptoms that he was having.
I see that. Yes. And speaking about earlier, Nancy, you know how they say, but kids are different. They hit milestones at different stages. Girls grow faster than boys, so sometimes it's not easy for parents, for example, to identify, some of those things in their early stages, of a child's development. But what would you say, probably some of the things to watch out for, some of the milestones that probably children might have hit, say, by the age of 2, so that if you notice, oh, there's this, probably, seek early intervention, like Stephen says?
When it comes to early intervention, let's talk about the head control.
Okay.
By 3 months, a child should have head control. And at those 3 months, at the same time, should be able to put weight on the lower limbs, on the legs.
Okay.
And should be able to have a social smile. At least they can respond, they can follow with their eyes, they can smell, they can cry when they need something, they can breastfeed. In fact, the first milestone is breastfeeding.
Okay.
Does the child have suckling reflex? If the child is not able to breastfeed the first 3 days of life, they are going to be dehydrated, they are going to be anemic, they can even get a stroke. Because of the stress levels, the bodies are small, the content of nourishment in their food is low, because they cannot take in so much. They do not have all the enzymes. So we need to start with the suckling reflex. Make sure the child is suckling correctly. Because in 6 weeks, most children will add more than 1 kilo of weight.
Okay.
So for them to add that 1 kilo, it means they suck the right way. Secondly, it means the mother is eating the right foodstuffs.
Okay.
because your child circles what you eat. So you have to make sure you are eating a balanced diet and you are eating frequently. We actually discourage weight loss until 6 months so that the baby can get enough food from the mother. Then at 7 months, the baby should be able to sit without support.
Okay.
Then at 9 months, the child should be able to stand and walk sideways, holding on the seat on the table. And at 1 year, should be able to at least try to stand independently, even not fully. But at 1 year, 6 months, should be able to walk. So check on these symptoms early enough, because the baby develops the sensory, the motor, and the cognitive. If your baby is not growing well, remember even the brain, even the intelligence, the emotions, and the immunity. Remember, when children are not able to feed well, they also get low immunity and they're prone to disorders. These disorders, for instance, if you get something like meningitis or TB, is going to compromise even their neurodevelopmental. So we need to be very keen, especially the first 5 years of life. And even after the 5 years of life, we need to continue with prevention. We need to be careful. We need to support the children. We need to put them in the right environment. We need to make sure they are also feeding well, because after 6 months, they should be able to be weaned off. And I always discourage malenge, waru, and matoke. Take a balanced diet. In fact, according to the nutritionist, mother and child booklet, you eat from the family pot.
Okay.
Because you are eating beans
yes.
and skuma, but your child is taking malenge and waru and matoke.
Yeah.
That's the common diet. That's the wrong diet.
Okay.
You should take milk when you're pregnant, when you're breastfeeding, because you need a lot of calcium.
All right.
And preconception care.
I see.
And don't forget preconception care before you think about getting pregnant.
Okay.
Are you healthy?
Yeah, I see that. And you see, that's very helpful, because the reality is, majority of people is like, yeah, 3 months in, we're pregnant, we don't even know, okay? And then, but it's not too late. What you're talking about is not too late, even when you realize that you're pregnant. Hey, Waru Malenge, I was shocked. I'm like, wait, what? But again, balanced diet. Yes. That is the point. Okay. All right. So then, Dr. Vivian, can we talk about some of the common barriers, that prevents children with disabilities from reaching their full potential, and maybe also touch on the programs that are available now?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the point raised by Madam Nancy, because she gave us a very good overview of how a typically developing child should progress. But then when this child is delayed, and then there's people whispering around you, your neighbors, your family, so those are the barriers, the stigma around it, or this child cannot learn, negative connotations about that child. So when that child and the family receives that kind of stigma, there is social exclusion for that child. When you look at the learning institutions, for example, many of these children have additional needs. Say, look at a child with hearing challenges or hearing impairment. They need hearing aids. Those with physical disabilities, they need ramps or using wheelchairs. And some of our learning institutions are not very designed optimally for these learners. So they miss out in the quality, but also in how they can engage in learning and participation. So you asked about our programs. I was going to save that, but let me...
do you want to save it? It's okay. We can have
save it a bit, because I think we need to really unpack these barriers, because maybe for the listener out there, they're not really very aware of what might be contributing to these challenges that makes our children with disabilities not reach their full potential. So I've raised attitudinal barriers, some of the physical and infrastructural barriers, but I believe my colleagues here can add a few more.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I feel that the attitudinal barriers sort of, go into the other additional barriers that we see. So stigma and discrimination sort of feed into the other barriers that we see. So for example, with communication. So if a child has a hearing impairment and they don't have access to a hearing aid or access to sign language, how would they be able to engage in the community? If there's challenges in, for example, playgrounds, we encourage children to play. The work of children is play. But if there's a playground that's not, inclusive for children with disabilities, that would be difficult for them to engage in. In terms of schooling, that's a really important aspect and an important barrier because less children with disabilities actually access school. And those who do might not complete primary school or secondary school, which of course in turn limits how well they can engage in the community, how can they be productive if they're not accessing school or learning. So those are additional barriers that sort of build into each other and they compound. So for example, a girl with a disability experiences the world differently, for example, as opposed to a boy. And for example, as they keep growing and they get to that stage where they have menstrual hygiene issues, you know, have we equipped the world around them to take care of them? You know, bathroom facilities, are they accessible for children with disabilities? Do we have sensory playrooms for children with autism, for example? You know, those are the things that we think about and that can compound and affect people differently.
I see. All right. How about we take a break, and then when we come back, would want to understand. So then, understanding these barriers, what are some of the interventions that are available, should be available, and also hear from Stephen and Nancy as well in terms of how do we support these children to really attain, you know, their full capacity and capability, and also thrive, you know, at the end of the day. So there's so much to come on the other side of the break. Do stay with us, but just remember the question that we're asking you this morning is, what are you doing to improve your community? Okay, we'll be looking at your feedback as well. Do stay with us. The show is Your World. Welcome back to the show. The conversation this morning is in relation to the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, and we're looking at early identification and intervention for children with disabilities. And of course, my panel today, perfect panel. We have Dr. Vivian Nangweni, Dr. Patricia Kipkemoi, Nancy Nirango, as well as Stephen Ndegwa this morning to help us with this very important conversation. I know we'll talk about the research in just a second, but Stephen, just to talk to you a little bit, you said, I wish we knew, you know, those things early and sought intervention early. It would have helped a while, you know, or a lot more when it comes to your baby boy, right? But even after you went from hospital until you got the diagnosis, what are some of the things that you noticed and that was a bit of a barrier? Because when it comes to healthcare, you know, right here in the country, we all know how that goes, right? But were there challenges that you noticed along the way when it comes to either access to healthcare or even, you know, just having the services, you know, brought to you?
Okay, first of all, I will just state a bit of what we went through, and then I'm going to look at the Autism Management Bill 2025, which has been tabled by Senator Karen Nyamo, which now will give a comprehensive analysis of the structural, legal, and community hindrances for parents who are seeking a better life for their children. But for us, definitely, at that time, he's 16. So at that time, there was really not a lot of information coming in. And I remember we even had started, I was one of the people who started one of the parent support group called Differently Talented Society of Kenya. We came together as parents of children with autism, and we said, well, how can we get together? We need to get together because this thing is getting serious and we don't seem to get help. So we went to the medical doctors at that time, I'm sorry to say, didn't have a clue so much, which was shocking because some of the doctors really didn't know about autism at all, and they're medical doctors. So it means even in medical school, they never learned dedicated you know, lessons on autism. So you find most of them are trying to fix you with drugs, and we were told that drugs, for example, for epileptics and people with mental challenges, if you give your autistic kid, then you're messing him even further. Then, of course, there are things to do with therapies. At that time, I remember I was working, my wife had to get out of work, and every time we had to go to Kenyatta National Hospital because that is where now there was comprehensive therapies. At least Kenyatta at that time, they were, you know, good in therapies. And I would have to go drop my wife and then rush to work and so forth. Until now, there's now an army of therapists who know what autism is, and they have dedicated themselves towards autism therapy. Then, of course, education. We first took our child to, I would say, a normal kindergarten. But after some time, he couldn't fit because then he has to come out of class, he's hyper. You know, we haven't really gotten the gist of the dieting that we need so that he can calm down. And even at that time, so he was chaotic, he would come out, no one would take care of him in toileting and all that. So we had to pull him out of school after a couple of years, and so now we are doing him an injustice. And so we went back to homeschooling.
Okay.
So that is a nutshell, an overview, but very fast on the shortcomings, for example, of the Karen Nyamu's Autism Management Bill. And I was told by stakeholders and parents that we encourage her to reach out to us, because then she's done a bill. It's good-hearted, but good-hearted won't deliver the real benefits that people want out there. So, for example, the bill neglects lifelong support for people with autism. It is just the diagnosis, and then at some point, the government fades out. And so, this, like now my son is 16.
Yeah.
I'm scared, for example, how is he going to live? What assistive devices is he going to be on? What institutions are there to take care of him, if at all me and the mother are not there, you see? So, and the brothers, the siblings also have their lives. So I'm not saying that they love him a lot, but at some point you never know how his care might be compromised because of the demands of the other. Because even as parents, you know, we are parents, so we have compromised a lot of our ambitions just because of him. So it shows you that it's really a challenge. Then, of course, there is lack of, you know, we don't take this as a human rights thing, because in more developed jurisdictions, for example, I was in China the other day for a 3-week tour, and one of the places I went was a disability services center. And if you look at the kind of money that the government is pouring into research of the next level disability assistive devices, then you can see we are really way off the mark about, you know, in terms of integrating and including people with disabilities in society. So that is one thing that we need to do. Then, of course, there are things to do with the weak data protection. If my son ever gets out of autism, then the data that the government has picked, how is it going to be used against him, for example, if he was to do certain things? So all those barriers to him getting a full life. And inclusion is the name of the game now. So at every stage, how are we including him socially, education-wise? So we must really put in a lot of money into making sure that the people with special needs feel part of the community, part of the society, and even contribute because like in my tour I saw some art, serious art by an autistic, autistic children, an autistic young teenager. I don't know if he was a teenager, but you can see the art he's doing, and clearly it is that empowerment. They're empowered and they're living their lives to the full.
I see. Fantastic. And speaking about empowerment and some of the barriers as well that you've really well highlighted. So Nancy, then what are some of the programs that are available in not just helping with early identification, but also in supporting them throughout the different stages that they're hitting, and also just speak a little bit on stigma and what needs to be done to help fight cases of stigma?
There is a lot of support from the Ministry of Health. I worked with the Ministry of Health before I came to Nairobi County when we were devolved. And we've done a lot of work when it comes to inclusion and patient caregivers training on how to take care of their children. Because if you do not have the caregiver on board, remember this person is the one who does the home program. We do something we call rehabilitation, which we have to train the parents and the caregivers on how to rehabilitate, on how to bring this child and the patient to back as normal as possible. And the government is working very hard, but we need more support from the government. We need a lot of community engagement, the families, the churches, the neighborhood, the schools, the hospitals. Who is the first contact at the hospital? Is it the soldier at the gate? Is it the nurse? Is it the clinician? How do you talk about this person with disability? Are you able to refer to the right place? Because we need to develop the system in a way that even though the county government is working very hard, we have many programs going on with the public partnership and also with the institutions themselves. And we are giving our suggestions. We need sensory rooms in all the hospitals. We need established disability and rehabilitation units in all the hospitals. We need the teachers with special needs to stop putting the children together. A child with cerebral palsy, the other one with autism, the other one with spina bifida, the other one, we need to separate these children. Their way of learning is different. The other thing, the teachers. We need to stop refusing these children. These children are not troublesome. They are our neighbors. So there's a lot of education that needs to be put across to create awareness and to demystify disability. Disability has been there since time immemorial, and it is here to stay. And if you are not disabled today, you have a relative who is disabled. If you are not having a relative that is disabled, as you age, disability is knocking. So we need to remove the stigma. We need to support them. We need to educate everybody, especially our children. I believe even the children curriculum should have a component on disability. It is not a privilege, it is a right.
It is a
for
right.
us to take care of every person, either with disability or not.
I like that. It's a right. I think when we approach it from that angle, then it makes everything else easier, and especially when it comes to support and also fighting stigma. So thanks for highlighting that, Nancy. Dr. Patricia, again, can we talk about, because you deal with the community, you work very closely with the communities, right? Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about the work that you've done? What are some of the findings? And then we'll also wrap in Dr. Vivian as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've done quite a bit of work in terms of child disability or child development. First, in terms of how to identify the conditions. So in this regard, you know, some of the tools that we use in research or in the clinic have been borrowed from other parts of the world. So how do we ensure these tools actually work for our children in our setting? So trying to adapt the tools to make sure that they're actually reliable and valid and are, you know, looking into the thing we're actually looking into. So for example, if we're looking at autism and we're looking at eye contact, and in a setting where perhaps a child is not supposed to look an older person in the eye, how do we assess that a bit differently in a cultural sensitive way, right?
Yes.
So that's one of the things we do in terms of the tools that we use. Secondly, we're looking at what could be the causes of these conditions, or what are factors associated with the conditions. So I've been working very long on a study called NeuroDev, which is looking at the genetic and clinical aspects of autism and intellectual disability. So trying to figure out what could the genes look like that are linked to these conditions? How do they present in our setting in terms of like the clinical aspects? Behaviorally, are children perhaps diagnosed more with hyperactivity as opposed to inattention? You know, how does intellectual disability look like in our setting? And we work very closely with community health volunteers and community health promoters and workers to try and identify children who might be hidden in the community and encourage them to seek help and you know, bring them to get care. So that's another bit. So the genetic aspect, and you know, that's it works hand in hand in trying to identify these conditions early. So there are some interventions that we're hoping to encourage in the future. So Dr. Vivian will talk about one really interesting one she's been working on for a while, and I've heard Madam Nancy talk about, you know, what's available, but things like, you know, play therapy, music therapy have been found to be very helpful for autistic children and children with intellectual disability. So that's you know, some of the things we want to get into as a follow-on on the research that we've done so far.
Fantastic. All right, Dr. Vivian, on the work that you've been doing as well.
Yes, thank you. For us, I'll talk about our SPARK project. It's a bit of a mouthful, but basically it's about the identification care pathway and linking children with disabilities, developmental disabilities, to an intervention. This is an international collaboration between our institution, Kemri Wellcome Trust, Addis Ababa University in Ethiopia, King's College London, and the World Health Organization. So our model was informed by years of work that we've been in this space. So one area, talking about identification, we know that a lot of the challenges we had were children presenting with delays, presenting to informal care quite late. So in our model, we started training community health promoters, teachers, caregivers, and we co-designed a tool. Basically, that tool looks like the developmental domains. Are there any difficulties? Does the child have difficulties in language, in communication, social interaction? When a caregiver responds to yes to any of those questions, they refer to the facility. Coming to the facility, we know many of these services are only available in tertiary facilities or special clinics. And so what we ended up doing within our research program is to train healthcare workers, and here we're talking about nurses, clinical officers who would be at the outpatient department of any health center or say a level 4 facility, so that they receive these children who've been identified to give them a formal assessment. Then upon those who are identified to have some bit of the developmental disabilities, and here I'm talking about autism, I'm talking about ADHD, I'm talking about mild cerebral palsy, so they were linked to an intervention, and here we call this intervention the WHO Caregiver Skills Training. It's evidence-based. So this is a training that targets caregivers to give them special skills so that they're able to train. We talked about the challenges of stigma around all children can learn. All children can learn.
Yes.
So we teach these special skills, how to notice communication, how to respond to the child's communication, how to manage challenging behavior. We talk about building routines. You know, you can't just tell a child to brush, you have to tell them the steps. So this is what the intervention we are currently doing a trial. We have some evidence around it, but what our current research is doing is to establish the evidence so that we can give the cost effectiveness of this intervention, but to know to what extent does it improve the outcomes for the caregivers, but as well as the children. Do we see any changes in their behavior, in their communication? So that's what we've been doing, and working closely together with government and other stakeholders as we implement this work.
I really like that. And I like what you said. All children can learn. So we have no excuse whatsoever to say, oh, they can't. Okay. So then in your opinion, what is it that can be done to really scale up? Because what you're doing is very, very impactful, right? So what is it that can be done to scale up, you know, some of this, you know, projects and interventions that you've identified so far?
I think in the identification space, there's a lot, currently there's a lot of attention in government, and I'll talk about like Nairobi County is doing a nurturing care training that is going to do a nurturing care, and it borrows to those foundational years that you're talking about. Are the children walking? Are they achieving their milestone? Are we providing early stimulation in their households? Are we providing opportunities for these children early on in life? So when you empower the immediate caregivers, that will translate to some significant differences that we see. So there's work that is being forwarded by the government, especially in early identification. But I think we still need to do a lot of work within the primary healthcare settings. I think for any parent with a child with disability, it's a bit disadvantaged when they have to go miles and miles away to receive a service, and only to reach there and be told, come 2 months later for a formal assessment. So we need to make sure that we can train those healthcare workers in the outpatient departments to be able to receive these children, but also to provide care. To Madam Nancy's point, rehabilitative facilities, those who really need a lot, because these children need speech therapy, they need occupational therapy, they need a lot of support. So we need a lot of investment there, and especially those that can be accessed at the lower levels. So that's my take.
I see that. And Stephen, allow me to rope you in here. I know you talked about some of the gaps. You talked about what can be done, but then again, I'm thinking from a parent perspective, speaking to another parent who's watching us and thinking, I mean, I love my child and I want to protect them from the world, because truth be told, sometimes the world can be very cruel, to children living with disabilities. So from where you sit, what is it that then needs to be scaled up, needs to be strengthened, needs to be fastened, if that is the word, really to support these children, so both from a parent perspective, but also from, say, the leadership, of the country, the healthcare system as well. And then I'd also want to hear from Nancy.
Okay, I think first of all, I want to say what my colleagues said, that we are all candidates of disability. And so we are not here to bring sympathy. We are not doing anything a favor to our kids or to other people who are disabled right now or who have special needs. We are all candidates. You can move out from here and get knocked down by a car, and then that's it. I have a friend who is an editor in this media house. I called her the other day, and she told me that Mkokoteni had actually, hit her. She was coming from her in Nyanza. So she stepped out. She's a senior editor. She stepped out from the Easy Coach. And just when she was crossing the road to take an Uber, Mkokoteni Kai came and ran over her, and now she's bedridden. And thank God that she will get well, but there are instances where now you have a disability and you are on wheelchair. So we're not, everyone is a candidate of disability. And so from the leadership, we must, this is just basically the leadership. I will not go and say that we community, definitely we as a communities and society, we need to reduce the stigma. Personally, I go with my son everywhere. Apart from when he was really chaotic, we used to go with him, for example, for mass, but at some point then we couldn't go with him for mass because when he goes there, he gets agitated, he feels a bit hot and he has to throw tantrums. But now we have managed his condition. I will walk with him in the middle of town. I will hold his hand. Someone will say, wait a minute, why are you holding a 16-year-old hand there? Someone can see there's something wrong with that picture. But I think the love that, first of all, as a parent, you give that child, that is critical. Because for me, I think he is my driving force, you know. I never got shocked that we were told he's autistic. Because I told you I have 3 children, so the first 2 are the grown-ups, and they're quite okay. So when this one came and we were told he's autistic, for me, it has just been a process and learning on the road, on the way, and being in forums that I'm able to encourage other fathers to, you know. So I will say that the government needs to really up their game in terms of funding programs of disability, from education to health sector, to dedicate certain sections to people with special needs, especially there's those with mental challenges and the people with physical challenges to a fair extent. They have been taken care of because they are, but you know, they have like wheelchairs and so forth. But what about an autistic kid? As I told you now, my son is 16. He has no speech yet. We still have to supervise him some basic things like showering, brushing teeth. You have to be there. Someone has to be there. If you see him here, he's okay, but you can see there's something in his mind that is not working. So how do we put in measures? Because I don't want him actually to write and read, because at this age he's not able to do that. So I want him just to be in a society that is able to understand him, and that is able to assimilate him in the things that they do. And as I said, in developed jurisdiction where the government has poured a lot of money in disability and special needs, there are homes, for example, where you can say, okay, I know that I may not be there this time, but I know that there's a home. I can book my son in a home that when I grow old and my son is not, and my wife is not there also, you know, and my other children need to take care of themselves. But there's somewhere that I can know that he's going to be taken care of. So there's those structural, legal, and you know, other kind of measures in education, in health, in diagnosis. They need a comprehensive, you know, kind of sort of establishment. And Karen Nyamo's bill, as I repeat, and I hope she's going to get this message, that she needs to stop where she's right now with that bill and come back to the stakeholders, because there's a lot of information that she doesn't have. I think she might have done it from an academic point of view, but the lived experience of people who take care of children with autism is much. I think if she went to a forum and we told her what we go through, I think she's going to cry. So for me, again, of course, I want to talk to fathers. It's very important that fathers are in the game when it comes to parenting. And we have seen that there's this thing on social media nowadays, where all the men. So I don't know where all the men are, basically. But
you speak to them.
No, but it's just, I'm not challenging them, but I'm just telling them that it's a high time that fathers also now took part, because it contributes a lot. My wife, definitely, that is the mother, has done a lot. Definitely she has done the most to make sure that this child, and even now she's still doing her role to make sure that we bring up our son in a decent manner. So I try to imagine if I was not there, because I've done half of the work in terms of, especially now that he's going to be a man, you know, he needs to shower and someone to supervise. I'm always with him there. Unless I'm not around, then someone else will go to supervise within the homestead. But basically, I am hands-on. And I think every father must there's a time for going to the pub to watch football. There's a time for going to the gym and all that.
Yeah.
But I think parenting, men must go back to their homes and take control of how they parent, not just the special needs, but even their children, to give them that father figure and protect their homes.
Oh, I really like that. Thanks, Stephen. Nancy, so understanding the gaps that are there, or probably you might also want to add on to the gaps that you have seen so far in your line of duty. What are some of the things, and also speak about the partners that you work with together to really help when it comes to early identification and also supporting children with disabilities?
The gaps are many, especially in Africa.
Okay.
Starting with awareness. As you can hear Ndegwa talking about noticing at 3 years. And this is something that would have been diagnosed far much earlier. So there's a lot of knowledge gap, not only in the community, but even in the professionals. I would tell you, like when I qualified more than 30 years ago from KMTC, we didn't know much about autism. And we didn't know much about disabilities. We have learned them on the job. So the first one is knowledge gap, creating awareness, demystifying disability, and more support. And we are working with the partners. The partners have been good to us. They have supported us so much. The county government has done the basic, which the partners cannot work without the basics. Because when they come, they find us in the facilities working. There's a lot of continuous medical education. There's a lot of updates on disability and other conditions. There's a lot of research going on, as Aga Khan is doing. There's a lot of training in the medical institutions. More curriculums are being developed. So the gaps will be sealed by all of us coming together, because we also don't know everything about these conditions. But what we know, have we utilized it to the maximum? Have we sent enough staff to level 2 and level 3 facilities? Are we working as a team, the multidisciplinary approach, so that you don't refer me a baby with rickets at the age of 1 year? It's already too late, but I'll still manage and they'll still pick. But remember, they have lost their first year of development, or they have slowed down. We have to give them 1 or 2 more years to develop. Do the doctors know when to give iron and not calcium, potassium and not sodium, phosphorus and not magnesium? So there's a lot of knowledge gap. So we need to invest as Africans. I know Africans don't love books, but we have to go back to the books. We have to learn what our grandmothers, our grandparents were doing. We have to play with the children. We have to allow them touch the mud. We have to allow them make sure their clothes are dirty so that they know how to wash these clothes. We have to make them talk to us, not always on social media, on the phone,
we
watching
give them
cartoons.
the phones to distract them.
We don't to distract them, but we are opposing the cognitive development.
I see.
Do the children know when they climb a tree, they can fall down and be hurt? Let's allow our children to climb the tree. That means we have to go back to the rural areas once in a while and allow them to play with the other children. Let the teachers not be so much focused on academic, that every child must get A. No, there are children who will never get even the 0.
Oh, okay.
There are children who don't learn at all. For instance, we talk about dyslexia. Do they learn? Their way of learning is different. We are Africans, and our culture is handwork. We do a lot of hand knitting, sewing, beadwork, drawing. These is the things that children with disability often thrive in. Are we going to start putting on our kitenges that are hand sewn? Are we able to put on our sweaters that are hand knit? So we have to go back to the basics so that we also support these people. We have also to discover, most of us have become career women, and we are not able to discover what our children are good at. We are not able to discipline. And as Ndego has said, the men, they're not able to stand and say, I want my child to be like this and not like that.
Yeah.
Do they understand what is happening? Do they know why the disability happened? If it is the parents, are they taking alcohol and smoking and shisha? By the way, shisha is one of the things I would really discourage, especially for ladies.
Okay.
What do you think that shisha will do to your child once
Yeah.
you take it in pregnancy? The food you are taking, are you taking burgers and pizzas? You don't want to take gideri. You don't want to take the types of beans, the dengus.
Yeah.
You don't want to take the mursik. You don't want to take the mokimo. And we are looking for these green leafy vegetables. We are buying them in form of tablets and capsules. The chlorophyll, the vitamin Bs are the ones that are very good for the brain. And the milk, the calcium, the beans are very good in the calcium because they're white in color inside. So what are we doing to make sure we are upbeat with what is happening? Are we ready? That's why I was talking about being ready. Are you really ready to become a mother? Do you know the cost of being a mother?
Okay.
Do you know the cost of bringing up a child between the age of 0 to 5?
I mean, listen, I see, and I like the fact that you're saying, listen, let's go back to how we were raised and what we saw growing up, and let's just be in touch with our kids. To prepare a lecture this morning, which is important. Okay, Stephen, very quickly.
I think what my colleague here said, you had mentioned that nowadays you find that you're pregnant after 3 months.
Yes.
You know? So people are not, so there's, it's not the way we were. There's so much space life that if maybe a lady misses her period, she's just going to take it part of the stress until when you know you're pregnant. And then now you're in the shisha, somewhere doing your shisha, and then you're not able to get out of it in a way that will, whatever. But I think I'm going to go back to what she has talked about, parenting. We are all busy, fine. But I think that's not an excuse, because you'll find that you're busy searching for this money, you know, I'll call it the rat race. So you're all over, you're trying to get money, but one day all that money will come to naught. Because either your kids will turn out to be drug addicts, or they will come out to be, you know, not everyone, of course, but I'm just saying these are scenarios. So all the money that you have got is put now trying to undo the damage of neglect of your kids. And so both parents must really come together, and especially for special needs. And because, as I've said, I have had to compromise a lot of my ambitions. And it's not out of design. For me, maybe it comes naturally. Because when I go and tell people that I talk a lot about autism, they are like, oh, this is not men, usually don't do that. But I wonder how so this is my child. So why would I not talk about him if at all I love him, you see? So there's that love, and every father and mother, and especially fathers now, must take control, must go there and know what is happening to my children. How are they being brought up? Because you cannot leave. I try to imagine like how we could have left our son to the house girl. Of course, I appreciate my wife that she agreed to step out of work for quite a long time. But it was a price we had to pay, because then you would have lost that boy. And the problem is that later on is when now he gets into, you know, if you don't fix it early, you know, try to fix it a bit early, it gets very bad. And especially a kid now who is 20 years onwards, 30 years, you find them still having those symptoms. So I think in terms of parenting, there's no excuse. You just go from the rat race, but know at which point you also need to go and give your, you know, your children the proper care that they deserve.
They need. Thank you, and thank you so much, Stephen. And Nancy, also allow me to take that as your passing shot, because I see your time is far much spent. And Dr. Patricia, in terms of the role of research and how important it is, because we keep discovering and learning things, and especially when it comes to disabilities, every so often, right? So when it comes to the role of research and just improving on research and strengthening research, what would you say? And I'll take that as your parting shot.
Right. Yeah, so what I'd say is that children with disabilities are very varied. You know, they're very diverse. Some will have low support needs and they can live independently. Some have higher support needs and, you know, would need a lot of care for longer. So even for the parents, you know, when they're caregivers and taking care of these children, there's that. We've talked about the financial, emotional cost that comes with that. And I think the word is kindness, you know, and curiosity. Could we, you know, go on Google and do a quick search, you know, what are the visible and non-visible disabilities. On this day of disability, right? Find out a little more, because information and awareness is what bridges that gap with stigma and discrimination. You know, when you know what this condition looks like, it's less, you know, fearsome or scary or unusual or strange. And with research, you know, trying to find out more about, you know, how many children actually exist with disabilities here in Kenya. Using that as a starting point to lobby for policies. We have the Disability Act that was passed, thankfully, and we're grateful that, you know, hopefully the implementation will, you know, bring in research, caregivers, and all the implementers together to make sure it works well. But yes, this is what I see. Curiosity and kindness is what we need in the disability space. And
and you would like that. Thank you so much, and Dr. Vivian as well. When it comes to policies as well and implementation and just scaling up from a leadership, you know, perspective, what would you say? And I'll take that as your parting shot.
I believe Kenya is one of the examples, given our Persons with Disability Act. There's some good things there we need to enforce further in terms of looking at the caregiver support. And I like the way Ndegwa has just shown how caregivers need a lot of the support, but also making provision for children with disabilities in learning institutions, in the health sector, and funding. That's very important. So when government, I know government can't work alone. Government needs stakeholders, and we try our best as academic partners to work with them in the research that we generate, in how we implement our work. And even today, you started by asking how we're spending our day. So as Nairobi County, we are celebrating this day. There's a commemoration together with National Council of Persons with Disability, Nairobi County government, together with other partners, caregivers. We are down at Charter Hall, so come join us, learn more about this day, learn more about the rights for persons with disability and the bill.
I see that. Thanks. In like 2 seconds?
Yes, 2 seconds. I think the researchers, they're doing a good work. Thank you very much. And I think I just want to mention very fast about government financing. The stakeholders told me to call out the government for reducing the budget for disability. Here they have reduced by half what they used to get to the national persons. I mean, it's shocking. I don't know what informed such a decision, but it's shocking. But the government know that even as they are able to bring in other people like academia and all that, those are just add-ons. But it is the sole responsibility of the government to invest so that now other people are just coming in to fill in the gaps. But let's not be like HIV/AIDS, where if the donors come out, then you hear the rate has gone up. So what is the role of government?
I see. Thank you very much. Speaking of HIV, that is what we're discussing in the second hour. But for now, allow us to say special thank you to all of you. Dr. Vivian Ngwenya, Assistant Professor, Aga Khan University Institute for Human Development, Dr. Patricia Kipkemoi, Postdoctoral Researcher, Aga Khan University Institute for Human Development, Stephen Ndegwa, parent, and as well as Nancy Ndirangu, a Principal Assistant Physiotherapy from Nairobi County. Asanteni sana, and thank you for the good work that you guys are doing for advocating, and especially for children living with disability. So allow us to say goodbye to this panel, but we're coming up from the break with a conversation on HIV and just taking stock of where we are at as a country and what needs to be done. So see you after the break.